of the Independent City Council for Monday, August 2nd, 2021. Our invocation this evening will be offered by Tim Allison, Chaplain and Bereavement Coordinator for the Visiting Nurses Association. If you would please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, we thank you once again for the blessing and privilege of leadership. We know that those who have placed leaders here tonight have entrusted to them a sacred trust. We know that you call them to lead with wisdom and compassion and right judgment, Lord. We pray that everything that is done tonight will reflect that call to compassion and divine wisdom. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmembers Huff.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
DeLucy.
Here.
Steinmeier.
Here.
Hobart.
Here.
Mayor Weir.
Here. Our first speaker tonight is Laura Dominic, who requests to speak to the council regarding bill number 21764. Ms. Dominic.
Thank you. Laura Dominic, 3525 Blue Ridge Boulevard, Independence. Mayor and council members, I'm here tonight to clear my name and reputation of the falsehoods, accusations, and insinuations that began on July 9th when I interviewed for the PUAB and culminated at the July 19th council meeting 2 weeks ago. Before I address those items, I would like to state for the record 2 pieces of additional information that pertain to this issue that occurred during the same period. First, on July 9th, when the council members were considering me for the PUAB position, one of them stated they would have to get their spouse's approval before they could recommend me for the position. The last time I checked, none of your spouses are members of the city council. In the afternoon before the July 19th council meeting, 2 council members happened to run into a good friend of mine in a public location and said to her, "We are going to ream your friend Laura Dominic at tonight's council meeting." I apologize to my friend for having been rudely dragged into this situation by her elected officials. Now to the falsehoods, accusations, and insinuations. Number 1, it was stated that I was against the one-time credit given to all ratepayers to address Section 3.17 of the Charter that was voted on the January 1st, 2021 meeting. In fact, what I said was, I was genuinely glad to see in the draft of the bill that the council wants to follow the charter with regards to annual profits. However, I believe the way disbursements are outlined here actually violates the charter. I know this issue's been around for years, and I'm glad to see it being addressed. I wasn't against the concept of returning excess profits, but I was against the violation of the charter that ultimately occurred when the council voted to disguise a one-time credit as a rate reduction. Second, it was stated that a couple of the council members should be thrown in jail because we violated the charter. This is in reference to my comments at the October 19th, 2020 council meeting, where a resolution was put on the agenda requiring executive-level employees to be residents of the City of Independence. In fact, I was only quoting from the Charter, Section 2.15, that defines the punishments for any council member who violates Section 3.3 of the Charter, none of which involve jail time. But let me refresh your memory. If any council member violates any provision of this section, said council member shall be guilty of a misdemeanor and upon conviction thereof shall be punished by a fine if not less than $25, no more than $500. Any such conviction of any council member shall be cause for removal from this office. Again, no reference to jail time. Please note that had this resolution passed, it would have also violated several sections of the charter, including not allowing the personnel board, for which I currently serve on, time to review the issue. Next, it was insinuated that my agenda would just be to rubber stamp the opinions of a special interest group on the issues facing the PUAB, including the issue of AMI. First, I have never stated my opinion on AMI because I've never formed an opinion on AMI. The council voted down AMI instead of putting it on the ballot, so I simply did not have time to thoroughly study the issue and the numbers before the question became a moot point. Anyone who has worked with me or knows me well enough knows I take the information available from all sources, I verify it, and I form my own opinions with that information. Insinuating I am a rubber stamper is an insult to my intelligence and my work ethic. My only agenda for serving on the PUAB would be to study the issues, including an in-depth look at the financial numbers, to decide what is best for the ratepayers, of which I am also one. Finally, number 4, it was said that I'm too political to serve on the PUAB as witnessed by my posts on Facebook. Apparently, this was a concern because during my interview, I was told that DKMT had reported to management that the PUAB had recently become politicized. I resent the accusation that I'm not professional enough to separate my political opinions from the work of a city committee, and the insinuation that I would further politicize the PUAB that happened on your watch, not mine.
You have 1 minute.
In fact, per the charter, section 5.12 states, no person in the service of the city or seeking admission thereto shall be, for shortness of time I will say, in any way favored or discriminated against because of political opinions or affiliations. A word to the wise, I wouldn't bring up politics in future interviews. Through all of this, I've come to the conclusion that my problem is that I'm an informed citizen. And some members of the city council do not like informed citizens to study the issues facing the city, nor do they want to serve on boards and committees. Finally, I cannot begin to tell you how appalled I am at how members of the city council have treated me in public, not only as a citizen of Independence, for which you serve, but a citizen who has put in literally hundreds of hours of volunteer work for the city. For anyone who asks me whether or not they should pursue a seat on a city board or committee, while under this council, I will refer to them to the city's YouTube channel to watch the July 19th, 2021 city council meeting starting at the 47th minute mark. That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Holmes Osborne, who wishes to speak to the city council regarding vehicles.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Holmes Osborne. I wanted to chat about this Chevy Silverado 5500, $60,000, $60,906.64. As I drive around the city of Independence, I look at their vehicles. It seems like we spend an awful lot of money on vehicles. That's an awful lot of pickup truck for a municipality. Seems like a long time ago, maybe 30 years ago, we were able to do this with Crown Vics and Chevy S10s and much simpler vehicles. Seems like this money could go used to be hire more police, invest on our infrastructure, pay down debt, other purposes other than expensive vehicles. Second thing is I would encourage you to approve the liquor license for Ain't Yo Mama Kitchen, because if the food's as good as the name, I'm going to be a customer. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other citizens who would like to address the council this evening? Okay, this takes us to our presentation resolution for the Employee of the Month. Madam City Clerk.
Whereas the City Employee Recognition Program recognizes outstanding performance by employees of the City of Independence, and whereas an employee committee selects the Employee of the Month for exhibiting the qualities and ideals that best represent public service. And whereas the Employee Recognition Committee has selected Brianna Jarvis, Warehouse Clerk with the Power and Light Department, as the Employee of the Month for August 2021.
I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Weir?
Yes, resolution passes. Is Brianna here this evening to accept her resolution? Yes, okay. If you please come forward. Congratulations, thank you. Our next proclamation this evening is for Independence, Missouri Bicentennial Celebration.
Whereas the land that would become the state of Missouri was included in the Louisiana Purchase, in which the United States acquired 828,000 square miles of the Louisiana Territory from France for $15 million in 1803. And whereas the Louisiana Territory, including the future Missouri, was explored by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark at the direction of President Thomas Jefferson from 1803 to 1806. And whereas the state of Missouri was admitted into the Union of the United States of America on August 10th, 1821 as the 24th state in the Union, and whereas the year 2021 marks the bicentennial of the state of Missouri's admission into the Union. And whereas Missouri's history, beginning even before its statehood, is rich in colorful characters, adventure, bravery, and embodiment of the American dream. And whereas Independence is one of the state's earliest and most historic communities, founded on March 29, 1827. Now therefore, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, hereby proclaims Independence, Missouri Bicentennial Celebration, and encourages all citizens to visit our wonderful historic sites, attend special community bicentennial events, and appreciate our own extraordinary history as well as the Show Me State.
Okay, thank you. And the chair of our Heritage Commission, Kayla Parker, is here to accept this proclamation. And Meg will get your picture. Okay, this brings us to our consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items any council member wishes pulled for separate consideration?
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
can you
Councilman
pull
Stewart.
number 8 from the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Delucci.
could you please pull Resolution 21-786?
Okay, any others? Hearing none, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll on the consent agenda minus item number 8 in Resolution 21-786.
Councilmembers Heff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Councilman Stewart, item number 8.
Question for the city manager on this. We're trading, or are we actually trading in that Ford for the Chevy? Is that how we're doing it? Or?
Yes.
Okay, and it only has 74,000 miles. I mean, really, that doesn't seem like a whole lot. What kind of mechanical issues is it having?
Typically, what we do, council member, with these vehicles is track the maintenance cost against the replacement cost, and eventually, as you know, it reaches a crossover point. This is doing more heavy labor type work, pulling trailers, going on some off-road job sites to do repairs and such. So that's a long way of saying it has had a harder life than the typical consumer would use a vehicle of that nature. So we've reached that crossover point now where those maintenance costs are exceeding the vehicle replacement cost.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion, Councilman?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Heff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Item number 8 passes. Councilmember Delucci, Resolution 21-786.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, I wonder, could you just explain to the citizens a little bit about this wage agreement with the IBEW?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. For the citizens watching, this work group represents a lot of our frontline maintenance employees, so municipal services, the folks that plow your streets, Parks Department, the folks that mow and maintain our parks. Also contains some of the record unit employees in the police department and some other clerical positions throughout the city, among others I may have inadvertently forgotten. This is a 3-year work agreement consistent with many of our other agreements that we've recently negotiated, containing the 2% across the board increases. It's a 3-year agreement, which again is consistent with, for the most part, with what we've done with some of our other work groups. with the exception of fire, that we did a 5-year contract there, which both sides were agreeable to. So all in all, Councilwoman and Mayor, members of the council, this is a consistent contract with what our other work groups have recently negotiated as well.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Madam Mayor, I move approval of 21-786.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, resolution passes. Our public hearing this evening is for the application received from Kevin Smith for a restaurant selling intoxicating liquor license for Ain't Yo Mama's Kitchen, located at 206 North Main Street. This is a full public hearing. Mr. Scannell.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Tom Scannell. I'm the Community Development Director. This restaurant is seeking a intoxicating liquor license. This is the former Rhinelander restaurant up on the square. This has been reviewed by all of the appropriate city departments, and that concludes staff's presentation.
Okay, this is a full public hearing. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any comments or questions from the council on the public hearing? Public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk.
Council action is requested on the application received from Kevin Smith for a restaurant selling intoxicating liquor license for Ain't Yo Mama Kitchen located at 206 North Main Street.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, item passes. This brings us to our non-ordinance action items. I've heard great things. I haven't been up there yet, but everybody's raving about it, so welcome to town. Madam City Clerk, we proceed with our non-ordinance action item.
Bill number 21-787, a resolution directing the city manager to ensure that all audit and finance committee meetings are recorded and published on the city's website.
Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins. Stewart.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, item passes.
Bill number 21-788, a resolution repealing resolution number 6256 and disbanding the council interview committee.
Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
No.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Item number 2 passes. Madam City Clerk, item number 3.
Bill number 21-789, a resolution amending resolution number 6256, which established the council interview committee as an advisory body to the city council for certain board appointments.
Is there any discussion on this bill?
Real quick,
Madam Mayor?
Madam Mayor, for
Just a moment, Councilman Hobart.
for clarification, could you summarize what this one does in effect with the one we just voted
With the
on?
one that we just approved
Yeah.
previously.
Yeah,
You would actually just need to vote this one down. It doesn't do anything since you've already approved 6256.
that's what I thought. Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilmember DeLucci.
I was going to suggest tabling this item, Madam Mayor. So I move to table.
To table till when, or to postpone indefinitely?
Postpone indefinitely, sorry.
Okay.
I'd second that.
There's a motion to postpone indefinitely. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Motion passes. This takes us to our ordinances. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 21-040, an ordinance authorizing the removal and destruction of municipal court records that have met all requirements to be eligible for such destruction and are the subject of Circuit Court Administrative Order number 2021-214. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins? Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
yes,
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-041, an ordinance authorizing a development agreement with Truman Heritage Habitat for Humanity as a qualifying community housing development organization for the development of affordable housing utilizing 2019-2020 home program funds in an amount not to exceed $181,603.62. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Abstain.
Perkins? Yes. Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
yes,
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-042, an ordinance authorizing a development agreement with Truman Heritage Habitat for Humanity as a qualifying community housing development organization for the development of affordable housing utilizing 2020-2021 home program funds in an amount not to exceed $217,729. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
yes,
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-043, an ordinance authorizing a development agreement with Oikos Development Corporation as a qualifying community housing development organization for the development of affordable housing utilizing 2020-2021 home program funds in an amount not to exceed $144,118. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
yes,
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-044, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a sidewalk improvements agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for sidewalk improvements on the north side of US 40 Highway from the Blue Ridge cutoff to Sterling Avenue as part of the US 40 Highway Complete Streets Project, project number 111802, federal project number, STP 3379437. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins? Yes. Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
yes,
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-045, an ordinance de-annexing certain land south of the southeast corner of Truman Road and M7 Highway and authorizing and directing the city clerk to take all necessary steps to accomplish said action. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
yes,
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-046, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to accept a grant from Mid-America Regional Council in the amount of $203,443 for the city's senior adult nutrition site program for fiscal year 2021-2022, and execute the amendment to the Community Center Services Agreement, making the necessary appropriations, authorizing future change orders for additional funding and/or time extensions, and authorizing certain future appropriations. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
DeLucy?
yes,
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Ordinance passes. That concludes our second readings for this evening. We have several first readings that will be voted on for consideration on August the 16th. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 21-047, an ordinance authorizing acceptance of a grant in the amount of $547,500 from the Missouri Department of Transportation for reimbursement of overtime for the police department for impaired driving enforcement and youth alcohol liquor compliance checks from October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022, authorizing future change orders and/or time extensions for the same project, and making necessary appropriations. Bill number 21-048, an ordinance authorizing acceptance of a grant in the amount of $296,300 from the Missouri Department of Transportation for reimbursement of overtime for the police department for crash investigation software license, excuse me, LET-SAC conference fees, and hazardous moving violations enforcement from October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022, authorizing future change orders, extensions, amendments, or addendums for additional funding and for same project, and making the necessary appropriations. Bill number 21-049, an ordinance authorizing acceptance of a grant in the amount of $52,000 from the Missouri Department of Transportation for reimbursement of overtime for the police department for occupant protection enforcement from October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022, authorizing future change orders, extensions, amendments, or addendums for additional funding for the same project, and making the necessary appropriations. Bill number 21-050, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District C1 Neighborhood Commercial to District R12 two-family residential for part of the properties at 3806 to 3822 South Canterbury Place in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 21-051, an ordinance approving a special use permit to operate a tunnel car wash on property at 15912 US 24 Highway in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 21-052, an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 14 of the Independence City Code pertaining to administrative adjustment appeals. Bill number 21-053, an ordinance finding, determining, and declaring the necessity of acquiring fee simple title for 24 Highway Complete Streets Phase 2, project number 112011, authorizing the negotiation and eminent domain proceedings if necessary, approving the plans and specifications for the project, authorizing the use of experts as needed, excuse me, authorizing and directing the execution of documents and the payment of funds to property owners or others holding property rights in conjunction with the project. Bill number 21-054, an ordinance finding, determining, and declaring the necessity of new right-of-way and permanent sidewalk easement for the Hardy Avenue Sidewalk Project, number 112001, authorizing the negotiation and eminent domain proceedings if necessary, approving the plans and specifications for the project, authorizing the use of experts as needed, authorizing and directing the execution of documents and the payment of funds to property owners or others holding property rights in conjunction with the project.
Madam City Clerk, prior to the first reading of 21055, I do have a motion for an amendment that I would like to offer. I have made copies and distributed to those who are present here tonight. I don't know if there's a way for Councilmember DeLucci to see this, but I would like to make a motion to amend Bill number 21055 to replace the ballot language in Section 8 to read as follows. Shall the City of Independence repeal the existing sales tax of 1/8 of 1% used to fund operations of the municipal fire department and instead impose a sales tax of 1/2 of 1% to be effective April 21, 2022 for the purpose of providing revenues for the operations of the municipal fire department, which tax shall remain in effect until repealed by voters. So I will need a second for discussion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. When I read the ordinance and proposed ballot language that we are hearing tonight, the language seemed unclear to me that this would raise the fire tax by 2.5 cents. And I asked for some input from our city attorney to make this ballot language more transparent to the public, that this would repeal the existing tax and replace it with a 1/2 cent sales tax. So that's why I'm asking for this amendment this evening. Discussion.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I think we're rushing this entire ordinance. I think we need to explain to our residents how we're spending their money now, what we need that we're not being able to afford, and how much money this would raise and how that money would be spent. We haven't discussed any of that with our citizens. And I know that you're trying to hurry and make it on a particular ballot, but that's not a reason to rush something like this.
So-
I'm to be voting no.
Tonight is the first reading of this. There is a study, I think, if I understand correctly, Madam City Clerk, this is scheduled for the study session for next week.
I'd have to check.
Yeah, yes, the city manager is nodding yes, that we'll have a presentation next week, and then we will have the second reading and vote the following week. But I'm seeking to make the language as clear as possible to the voters, which the language in the ordinance before us tonight says nothing about repealing the existing tax. It says it would impose a tax of 1/2 of 1%. We currently have a 1/4 cent tax, and is that correct, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, it currently collects 1/4 of 1 cent.
Okay, so I just want to make it clear that this is not an additional 1/2%. This is, that would take away the 1/4 cent and replace it by 1/2%, which is in compliance with state statute. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
No.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 21-055, an ordinance imposing a fire protection sales tax at the rate of 1/2 of 1% of the receipts from the sale at retail of all tangible personal property or taxable services at retail within the city of Independence, Missouri, which shall remain in effect at said rate thereafter until repealed by the voters of the city, calling for the proposition adopting said tax to be placed on the ballot at the regularly scheduled election to be held November 2nd, 2021, proposing the form of the ballot and directing the city clerk to do all things necessary called for by the law in connection with holding of said election.
Madam City Clerk, prior to the reading of Bill 21056, I have a motion for amendment. I move to amend Bill number 21056, Section 1, subsection A5, to change the definition of sexual orientation to align with the definition set out by the Human Rights Campaign. And I would need a second for discussion.
Second.
Okay. It has been brought to my attention that there's some language that is developed by the Human Rights Campaign, which is the leading organization that we are intimately involved with in the LGBTQ plus community. And the new language would read, sexual orientation is a individual's actual or perceived romantic, physical, or sexual attraction to other persons or lack thereof. A continuum of sexual orientation exists and includes, but not limited to, heterosexuality, homosexuality, bisexuality, asexuality, and pansexuality. So my motion would be to replace the existing language in that section with the language from the Human Rights Campaign. Discussion.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
so we voted on an ordinance like this a couple of weeks ago, and it failed, obviously. So that's the reason this is coming up again. But this is the exact same language as in the previous ordinance we voted on, so why the change now?
The current language, excuse me, let me, sorry. I'm sorry, I thought I had it up. This is a new ordinance, and the current language in this section defines sexual orientation means the preference or practice of homosexuality, heterosexuality, asexuality, and bisexuality, or some combination thereof, by consenting adults or as perceived by others but not including sexual preference or practice between an adult and a minor. This language that I'm proposing removes the idea of preference and is in alignment with the language that is adopted and promoted by the Human Rights Campaign.
I understand that. My question was, this is the same language in this ordinance that was in the ordinance 2 weeks ago.
Right?
So you didn't ask to be changed then, so I guess why now?
I learned a
Did
lot.
it just come to your attention?
Yes, I've learned some things since then.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Madam Mayor?
Yes. Councilmember Hobart, I'm sorry, Steinmeier.
Just for clarity, this, in doing some research on this, I discovered a House bill in Utah that was a joint effort between the LGBT community and the Utah State House, and they brought them in and they wrote this, and it met the criteria for one of the most conservative states in the union here to adopt it. They're the 19th state to do so. They're the most conservative to do so. I've called the co-sponsor. I've talked with them. They've not been challenged by it. They said it meets the standard and everybody's happy. I look at this language and I think it's too deep in the weeds, and maybe some people want to have this as the definition. I think we're fine with the one that we currently have. We know that it's not been challenged constitutionally, and I think it's better written than the first one, and I'm hoping that as it stands, it's one that we can trust will be effective against conversion therapy on minors. And that's the whole goal. And so protection of minors is why we're doing this.
So, Councilman Steinmeier,
Yes.
the topic is the motion on the change of the definition.
I understand.
Okay.
And I've told you where I'm opposed, so that's all.
Councilmember DeLucci?
I was simply going to ask, Madam Mayor, if someone could please email me that amendment. I'll be going out of town in a couple days, and I want to be sure and look at it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Councilman Hobart?
in my limited experience with the LGBT community, I very much appreciate, and I hadn't thought about it much when I initially read the ordinance, I do appreciate the removal of the preference or practice. I know that it's not, LGBTQ plus folks are not practicing or making a choice. It's an innate character or trait, or it's who they are as a person. And I think it is appropriate not to have preference or practice in there. So in the scheme of things, I would be more in support of your language for that. I think it's more inclusive, and from my perspective would be not offensive.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Huff,
No.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
No.
DeLucy,
No.
Steinmeier,
No.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. I'd like to make a second motion to amend section, let me look at my notes. Bill number 21056, section 1, subsection A5, to remove the words preference or practice.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I'm sorry, where are we removing this from again?
We're still on the same section that defines sexual orientation. My motion is to remove the words preference or practice.
Okay, I don't think I would have a problem with that one, so I'll be voting yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Madam City Clerk?
Bill number 21-056, an ordinance creating section 12.06.008 of the Independent City Code for the prohibition of conversion therapy of minors.
Okay, this concludes our first readings for this evening. I will, as always, draw your attention to our information-only section. Of note, we did have an executive session earlier this evening. The council rules of procedure amendment notice for consideration is coming up on Monday, August 16th. And as always, we have our semi-monthly COVID update with some new information about the global pandemic. This takes us to council member comments. Councilmember DeLucci, I'll start with you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. First, Mr. City Manager, I trust that you heard the questions I asked regarding the firefighter, fire language, how much it's going to raise, and what do we have the need of, what do we have the need for, and how's our money being spent now? Could all those questions be answered at our study session next week?
They can, and I must confess that when you were asking those questions, I was writing them down and misspoke. Our fire sales tax is 1/8 of a cent, not 1/4. So
1/8 of a cent.
I just want to clarify
My
that.
fault, yes.
But we can get that, all those 3 items as part of the staff presentation next week, Councilwoman.
And 2 other things, of course. First, I'd like to know what else is going to be on the November ballot, and how much is it going to cost us to have this as an issue on the November ballot? Okay, could that be part of it too, Zach?
Yes, we can add that.
Thank you. And Madam Mayor, I do not believe that the restriction on everyone having to wear a mask in city buildings is necessary. And I sent you an email earlier today asking for a special session for us to vote on it. And I don't know if you're going to consider having a special session or not. And on the off chance you're not, at this time, I'm making a motion for us to have a special session. And in order for us to have a special session, I need 3 other council members to agree with me that we cannot wait 2 weeks to have this on an agenda. So I move for a special session in order to discuss the mask mandate in city buildings.
Second.
Do I have a second?
On which date, Councilmember?
I can't hear you.
What date are you calling the meeting?
I'd love to have it for Wednesday.
So that would have to be posted tomorrow, Madam City Clerk?
That's correct.
So your motion is to have a specially called council meeting on Wednesday of this week?
Correct. For the sole purpose of reviewing and hopefully repealing the mask ordinance at all city buildings.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Pass.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir,
Yes, you can have a meeting, but I am unable to attend.
Councilmember Perkins,
Yes.
I call it for 6 o'clock. Is that okay with everybody? Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I have.
Okay, Councilman Steinmeier.
Well, since we're going to have this special session on Wednesday, I'll just say my questions for you, Mr. City Manager, at that time, and nothing else.
Councilmember Hobart.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to call everybody's attention. It's the Missouri Bicentennial, as pretty much we're all aware. The city is having an ice cream social, but also the Puppetry Arts Institute, which I heard is awesome, will have a show at 11 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. on August 14th at the National Frontier Trail Museum. For anybody out there listening, the museum will be free to get in and look at, and so will the Pioneer Cabin. That's up just off the square. And the other thing I want to mention was that Hawaiian Brothers is open on 39th, right off 39th and Nolan. I encourage everybody to go there. I have no interest in this other than the fact that I'm addicted to it. So, and now I'm gonna have to go to Aunt Yo Mama's Kitchen. So lots of good places to get out and go eat. Unfortunately, COVID rates are going up, but still get out, enjoy the rest of summer, and enjoy Independence. Thanks, folks.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Huff.
Yes, I have a couple of things. This morning, I welcomed the American Solar Car Competition to Independence along with Morris Heidi and Mark Randall. The competition in Independence was at the beginning of the Santa Fe Trail. It was very interesting to see all the solar cars represented by various colleges. It was 200 years ago when the Santa Fe Trail was established and is known as the Great Prairie Highway. My wife and I enjoyed the vast history Independence has to offer, and I wanted to thank Parks and Rec, Morris, and Mark Randall for getting involved in this worthy competition. I'd like to see more of this and more of these events to bring young people to our city. I applaud you for that. Another thing, over the weekend we had an unfortunate accident with a homeless individual struck at 435 and Truman Road. Was killed. I'm sad this happened, and this is why this council passed a resolution with regards to panhandling in the right-of-way and impeding traffic. Mr. City Manager, I hope to see more enforcement of this ordinance and keep these individuals out of the traffic and avoid this type of accident in the city of Independence.
Yeah, very unfortunate, as you said, council member. Just a couple of quick things there. I know while I was gone last week, the mayor has reached out to her counterpart, Mayor Lucas, and my counterpart, the city manager, to organize a meeting. That particular part is Kansas City, but I know that doesn't serve as an excuse, nor does it bring the individual back who was killed in that accident. So we are going to try to talk to our counterparts in Kansas City. I know many on the council have tried this effort to speak to their colleagues and peers on the Kansas City Council. The mayor and I spoke with the former mayor and city manager. So we'll continue reaching out and try to remind Kansas City that the city limits go past the Truman Sports Complex. Secondarily, I guess the curse of being a city manager, when I was on vacation last week, I was looking around for some ideas, and one thing I noted was the community I was in had posted signs in the park that noted this is a public space, and it had dates that could be written in. It was intentionally left blank, but left dates of when a sweep was going to happen in those parks to remove any individuals who were loitering or those belongings that had been left behind. It also had phone numbers available for those individuals who needed different social services posted on the sign. So it never mentioned homelessness. It mentioned if you're in this park, not enjoying the park, but tearing up the park or residing in it and or leaving your belongings, it's going to be moved. I will mention that was about a block away from the Supreme Court, so any insinuation that this is going to tick off the ACLU, I don't buy it. So I've asked the staff to take a look at this and would like to work with the council perhaps to enact some legislation to establish that here in the community as well.
Yes, maybe we could dial up a resolution with that, since you have all that stuff. It'd be nice.
Yeah, we'll get something cooked and I'll run it past the council and see if we can't get that added to the next agenda.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Perkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm going to dovetail a little bit with what Councilman Huff was saying on two parts. One is the unfortunate incident there at Truman 435. And with this meeting being set up with Mayor Lucas and the counterparts, so this would be one of several meetings over the past couple of years that the mayor and I have reached out to Mayor Lucas and my counterpart, Councilman Bunch, over off of 435 and 24 Highway, to stir some conversations. So hopefully we can get that fully moving and going again. And the second one, the American Solar Challenge, pretty neat, pretty cool. Was out there today with the wife and looking at some of those cars, and I believe this is the second year running that they've chosen to use Independence as the starting point for this race. And the cars were definitely unique. It was kind of fun talking to some of the younger kids out there to see our young talent throughout the different colleges across this country to really put their minds to work and do something neat. So cool, good spotlight exposure to Independence Square. Also, back to school event was taking place at Maywood today, so I want to say thanks to our PD folks that were out there kind of helping out there and just being visible and present. And a big shout out to Eric and Holly from Community Development for going out there and helping. I planned on staying a little bit longer than anticipated, but I couldn't because we had an executive session, so thank you for staff for being out there. When I was leaving, the event started at 5, there was lines all the way going to close to winter, so it was a good turnout. So.
Thank you. Councilman Stewart.
I had a question for the city manager. So if a city staff determines that a house or a residence is uninhabitable, and what's the process in that? How long do you give the people to get out if somebody's living there? And what if they have like medical conditions or they're elderly and they have nowhere to go? Is city staff equipped to help them get somewhere?
Yeah, I will say that I think our staff tends to be pretty fair in helping move people out of those situations. Now, code does say that when it's been declared unsafe to occupy, that you cannot occupy the home except between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. except for, to go in there and make those repairs to the home to try to get it back into compliance with the code. It's a pretty high bar to hit the unsafe to occupy standard. We're not talking about carpet coming up. It's some pretty unsanitary living conditions and or life safety issues. But one of the things a few years ago when we were working to preserve some of our property enforcement rights as a community in Jefferson City, we advocated and highlighted our very generous process to try to give people extensions and time and all of that. So if anything, typically I'm getting questions about why aren't we moving faster on these issues. I don't have the exact number, council member, of how long until after it's deemed unsafe until we move them out. I can get that for you, but just conversationally, I can tell you it tends to be pretty generous towards the homeowner before we put a foot on it.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Couple of very positive things that the council unanimously approved this evening. One is the streetscape project, complete streets project on 40 Highway from Sterling to Blue Ridge Cutoff on the north side. That will be a huge safety enhancement to that area of town. And I think a very nice aesthetic enhancement as well. This has been a long time coming, as most federally funded projects are. There's a long runway to taking off, but that's very, very exciting. The other that was a first reading tonight was the project, again, that actually, even though it seems like it's been a long time coming, it actually happened very quickly in the terms of getting federal funding, which is the Hardy Avenue sidewalk project. When Castle Park Elementary was built there at 31st and Hardy, it immediately created a huge safety concern because there are no sidewalks or inadequate sidewalks. The school district put in the sidewalks that they were required to put in. But we have a lot of kids and families who are walking to school, riding their bikes to school, and it's a very, very unsafe situation. So I'm pleased to see that's moving forward. There will be a meeting on August 9th for public comment at Castle Park. I'm not sure, I think it's at 5 o'clock in the evening. That information is available on our website, and I believe letters were sent to homeowners in the area inviting them to participate in that meeting. There will be no presentation given. It will just be an opportunity for people to come and look at the designs and give some input. So we'll make sure to get that out on our social media channels so people are aware that that opportunity is available for them to come on Monday and give comment. As promised, we have increased our vaccination clinic opportunities. We will have clinics every day, Monday through Friday. The schedule for this week is as follows, and this is also out on our social media channels. Tonight, well, you missed it. It was from 5 to 7 at Maywood Baptist Church for the Hispanic Family Engagement and Back to School Night that was hosted by Community Services League. Tomorrow from 10 to 12:30, we'll be at Hawker Heights. Wednesday from 11:30 to 1 o'clock, we'll be at Lunch Partners up on Lexington. Thursday evening, as we have been doing all summer, we'll be at Moonlight Movies on the Independence Square from 7 to 9 p.m. And Friday, we'll be at Drop-In Clinic, as we've hosted every week here at City Hall in Conference Room D from 12:30 to 4:40 for some reason, p.m. So we encourage people to come take advantage of these vaccination opportunities. They're free. You don't have to be an Independence resident. You don't have to show proof of residency, insurance, citizenship. If you're a child under the age of 15 or 18, Meg? 18, you do have to have a parent's consent. We'll continue to have these. If your business, church, neighborhood has an interest in hosting a clinic, please let us know, and we will do our best to make arrangements to come and make this as easy as possible for people to continue to get vaccinated. Mr. City Manager, anything else this evening?
Nothing else, Mayor. Thank you.
We're adjourned.